Staging a dialogue, how Russian propaganda sells fictional diplomacy. On August 5, 2025, the main Kremlin talk show, 60 Minutes Hot on the Trail, presented the viewer with a carefully staged, urgent event. US Presidential Envoy Steve Witkow arrived in Moscow, supposedly on a mission of exceptional importance. Russian hosts enthusiastically comment on his every step, from his walk through Zaryadye Park to his entry into the Kremlin. Everything is presented as a spectacle, where Putin is the decisive factor in peace and the US is a partner looking for him. At first glance, it's diplomacy in action, but if you look closely, it's a performance built according to the laws of television drama, not international relations. First, replacing diplomacy with its television imitation. Moscow is simulating a diplomatic process in which it chooses its partners, agenda, and outcome. The viewer is offered a convincing picture. America has come to beg. Russia dictates terms. The West is weakening. Putin is winning. Second, the technique of a false deadline. The broadcast says that Trump's ultimatum expires on Friday, after which he can impose sanctions. This timer is fiction. It is an old Soviet technique to designate a bifurcation point at which the West should supposedly come to its senses. In practice, this is a blackmail technique, the purpose of which is not a compromise, but a concession. Creating the illusion that the future of the world depends on Russia is the key task of this production. Third, Trump and Biden as antipodes. The internal American struggle through the eyes of Moscow, Russia, is once again playing on the internal American split. In the program, Biden is accused of provoking a conflict, while Trump is presented as a supporter of a peaceful solution. This is advantageous to the Kremlin for two reasons. First, it allows the bad West to be contrasted with the good Trump, with whom it is possible to come to an agreement on Russian terms. Second, it undermines the unity of the American political course, which is especially dangerous in the run-up to the US elections. Propagandists claim that Trump does not want war, and at the same time broadcast that he is ready for tough economic measures, 100% duties on the purchase of Russian oil, secondary sanctions. Thus, even the West's threats are turned in Russia's favor. They say it means they are afraid and bargaining. Fourth, Europe as a victim and a source of discord. Particular attention is paid to Europe. Europeans are paying for someone else's war, Americans are handing over weapons, and European taxpayers are paying. The goal is obvious: to cause fatigue, mistrust and irritation in the European viewer. This is a strategy to demobilize support for Ukraine, to undermine solidarity, weaken will, and provoke conflict between allies. Fifth, Putin does not give up. And this is the main message. Despite the ostentatious readiness for a gesture of de-escalation in the form of an air truce, it is emphasized there will be no complete ceasefire. Putin allegedly does not intend to give in, and this is presented as a form of force. In fact, this is a demonstrative refusal to compromise. But in the logic of propaganda, this is presented as a victory. And this is the key threat. Russia broadcasts that it does not seek peace, but only victory. And diplomacy, as it is carried out, is just a smokescreen. And when Trump is behind it, it has a big impact. Does he pay for it? What else can he do? I can't decide for him, and I won't guess. How important is this meeting, given that the 10-day deadline set by Trump is almost up? It's very important. The president recently made two key decisions. The first is to increase military aid to Ukraine, but at the same time exempt American taxpayers from funding it. The Europeans will pay. These are our weapons, but they will give them back, and there will be many more steps in this direction. The second is what we are talking about now. It is unlikely that Putin will agree to a ceasefire, and these are the main conditions. So, most likely, the president will impose tariffs and sanctions. What is Putin doing? He is trying to break the will and determination of the president, dragging out the negotiations so that he gives in. He is doing the same with Zelensky. Europeans must recognize not television images, but real threats. What is broadcast on 60 Minutes is not politics. It is an imitation of it, created to manage perception and not to seek solutions. Such programs create an emotional background that feeds external aggression. Russia does not offer negotiations. It offers the illusion of negotiations, accompanied by blackmail, threats, and constant violence. Europe cannot afford to perceive this as an alternative point of view. This is strategic disinformation. That is why it is so important to support independent journalism, fact-checking, and public analysis of propaganda methods. This is the only way to defuse this weapon, which is aimed not at victory on the battlefield, but at undermining the will to resist in the minds of Europeans.